there is no question that organized crime figures are like anybody else. I mean, they run the gamut of people, except the business they're involved in is murder. So you sort of step back. I remember one informant, a person who became a witness, who had been a hitman for the mafia and had killed a number of people, being very proud of the fact that he never killed a civilian. And by that he meant he never killed anyone but other organized crime figures. And really justifying it in his mind because all of them had agreed to the same code. And therefore it was okay to kill them if they had to be killed, because like him, they had all agreed that if they broke the rules or were suspected of breaking the rules, they could be killed. And I don't think he really thought of it as murder the way you or I would think of it as murder. Had he killed an innocent, what he would call a civilian, a person not involved in the mob, then he probably would have felt much more guilty. But it's an orientation that they grow up with and that they have in their heads that kind of distinguishes it. I've also seen a difference between what I describe as organized crime people, mafia and others, who like to kill, and those who don't, but allow it to happen anyway. The ones who like to kill do it with any excuse and enjoy sometimes even participating in it and watching it when they've progressed beyond that as bosses. The ones who don't like to kill will almost pretend that it's not happening. So it's a very mixed bag. I mean, I can remember even as a young prosecutor being part of prosecutions of organized crime figures, and their families would show up every day, children devastated by these charges and not believing it. And then other situations in which the family would show up very, very proud of the fact that the father or uncle or was involved in organized crime. So it's they're different, like I guess any other group in society, except there's something that distinguishes them, which is that they participate in murder. And no matter, sometimes they can be very charming and very nice and very courtly. But if you're an investigator or a prosecutor or a government official, you got to keep in mind that these people, even if they reluctantly go along with it, kill other human beings, which creates a different category.
Capi come Don Carlo, io conoscevo quando lavoravo da Bonaparte.
Bosses like Don Carlo that I knew when I worked with Bonaparte, or bosses like Funzi Thierry, Don Alfonso, or Junior Persico, they're not around anymore.
Molto lucky, very, very polite, very, very polite, very genteel, never raise voice, never call you with the kind of name, mai che ti chiamassero con queste volgarmente, sempre cortesi.
It's not like they called you with these vulgar names. They were always courteous.
Avevano bisogno di
They seemed more like gentle old men that needed help just across the street.
Giangari, the Blast, the Gallo family. Gigante è l'unico che si può associare con
Bosses like John Gotti or the Gallo family, they're different. Gigante is the only one that I could associate with the old guard. When I worked in the village, Gigante was the only one that would tell his boys to give money to the poor. You make money, so you got to share some of it with the poor. But those of today are not like the ones of yesterday. A boss like Don Alfonso was kind. He was always seated in his Napoli club. He would help people, the artists. He always had a good word, and never a bad one. If he could do you a favor, he would do it. It didn't matter if you were Napolitano, Siciliano, Calabrese. If you were right, you were right.
Gambino had the biggest family and a very, very powerful one. When he died, he gave it to his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano, took over the family. Paul Castellano had millions of dollars. He didn't like drugs. He didn't need drugs. So he's trying to tell all the young men, don't get involved in drugs, don't get involved in drugs. Some of John Gotti's friends got arrested for dealing in drugs. When Paul Castellano says, what are you doing? They says, no, it's a frame-up. It's a frame-up, okay? Paul Castellano was a smart man. He says, okay, you're going to go to trial, and the government has to give your lawyer all the tapes of the wiretaps they had. Bring the tapes to me. I want to hear them. I'll see if it's a frame-up or not.
When Castellano took control of the commission here in New York and the 5 families, was to get out of narcotic trafficking. However, because of the severity of the penalties, because of the RICO law, which was being utilized more often, and these individuals, the bosses, underbosses, realized that the government can come and not only place you under arrest and send you to jail for a long amount of years, but can also take your home, your boat, your cars, your summer residences. That's the reason why Castellano was killed, because there were tape recordings that indicated that some of the people in the Gambino family, the Gotti crew, Angelo Ruggiero, who has since passed away, was never prosecuted, had been involved in narcotic trafficking. And it was a result of those wiretaps and bugs that came into the hands of Mr. Castellano's attorneys. And they had to do something or they would have been killed themselves. So in Gotti's instance, it was kill or be killed.
The story of John Gotti is really a media story. John Gotti was an individual who was essentially a thug, who rose to power in the family very quickly because of his assassinating the previous boss, Paul Castellano. John Gotti was a captain in the family. He was a man who wore open shirts and gold chains. He was a gambler, not only running gambling activities, but himself a degenerate gambler.
They did control cement, garbage removal, things where you work with your hands and get them dirty and no one else really wants to control it, and they made a lot of money on it, I'll say that. And they blew all the money. I don't think he has any money. He had a high opinion of his own ability to fathom a horse race or a football game, and he bet huge money on it, and of course he's always wrong.
John Gotti is like the last of a certain breed, and even he is more a central casting kind of gangster. He is to the mob what Ronald Reagan was to patriotism. You know, he looks like a president, therefore he's the president.
Let me say this to the general public. You might feel enthused and see, wow, look how they dress and act, but they are the lowest scum of the earth. I mean this sincerely, the lowest. They kill each other. Now, here's a man, I'll take Paul Castellano, for instance. He was a mafia, he was feared, and I'm sure he's killed quite a few people, but he wanted to run his organization without drugs. I'm not saying to stop murder or extortion or gambling or prostitution, but no drugs. But they killed him anyway. His own people killed him. Right? Now you got a cowboy for a boss. John Gotti. He's in prison now. He's safe in prison. But he's a cowboy. He's a bum. That's what he is. A sharp-looking bum, but he's a bum.
He was tough. He was a killer. People feared him, but not a man of vision, not a man of intelligence.
I don't think he has anything to do with the old Godfathers. I think what he has to do with is the old movies. You know, he is a direct descendant of American movies. If there had been no George Raft, no 30s movies, no gangster movies, there'd be no John Gotti. Gotti also, because of his age and all that, his experience has been different from all the previous guys. First of all, he's born in this country. He's the first mafia godfather to grow up with rock and roll.
He was a schizo. He'd be talking to you calm one minute, and he would fly off the handle the next minute. He was like very violent. He was a wacko. You know, and in fact, he took those very strong pills for depression that crazy people take, you know, and he's very dangerous. He could be talking to you and become aggravated all of a sudden. If he had anything in his hand, he'd probably shoot you with a gun or stab you with a knife. The type of person he was. So, I'm always talking like this because I know he can't find me.
He would have been out had Castellano survived or the leadership of the family passed on due to Castellano's choices. And so as a result, he killed Castellano and was voted in as the new family boss. All of a sudden, as the boss, he started wearing $2,000 suits and hand-painted ties. He was no brighter than he was before. But because of two quick cases that he won acquittals on, in one case because of witness intimidation, the other case because of jury tampering, he had all of a sudden a reputation as the Dapper Don and the Teflon Don.
One case is about shooting some carpenter in the ass because the job at some restaurant was badly done. This is not, you know, the Corleone